South Sudan is one of the countries where wildlife conservation is hardly practiced due to the insecurity, unsustainability, and the lack of implementation of laws that govern the wildlife authority in the country. There are so many importance of wildlife conservation in Africa. Today, countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Ivory Coast are witnessing an increase in domestic tourism as a result of the wildlife conservation. This year, the International Wildlife Day is celebrated under the theme Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Restoration. In this year's celebration, Youth Media Initiatives takes a look at the Central Equatoria State Wildlife Authority, finding out what are some of the challenges and the plans they have for wildlife conservation in the state. We talked to Major General Kenyi Wilson, who is the director of the Wildlife Authority in the Central Equatoria State.
Indeed, all these plans are laid down in place.
Just like any other institution of government, Major General Kenyi says the authority is currently having a lot of challenges, one of which includes mobility problem.
It is only that the insecurity that is making us not to operate outside. We lack so many things. Mobility, vehicles for movement, but then even equipment, even the guns. We have the guns, but no rounds to operate them. Uniform is a problem. Food for the forces outside there is a problem. So all these things needs to be addressed so as for us to function as a unit within the state.
According to Kenyi, despite these challenges, some parks and game reserves in the state are still functional.
Concerning the state, we have force in Mangala. The national headquarters has force in Magokolong, which is the park headquarters itself, in Magokolong. And then in Nimule, we used to have soldiers in Kenyi, but because of the insecurity, they are not there. But then in here, we have forces of National Park. They are there. Despite all these difficulties, they are there, and they are operating there.
Despite the operations of these game parks in these particular areas, Major General Wilson says there is still a big challenge dealing with poaching, which many parks in this country experience.
It's indeed a challenge to us in wildlife. It's a very big challenge to us in wildlife. We've been trying some corridors where this meat enters into the town, but we control some few parts, but most of the parts, the meat comes through these cars of this army. They're the ones transporting it, so it's a bit not easy to get them. So, but we are trying, we have tried. There were so many army cars captured around Magiri side there. And carrying this meat. So at the end, the authorities has to lay strict regulations on them, then the cars are released. Otherwise, the cars wouldn't have been released. It would be confiscated because it is used in the crime of poaching stations only. Apart from poaching, we've got these materials, I told you, like uniform, like the food for the soldiers, and the vehicles for moving them, and so on. These are part of the challenges. It's a part of the challenges. The population, most of the bush is reduced because of need for this and firewood, charcoal, building materials, and so on. Especially with the insecurity that I told you that no movement, you cannot go very far. So the nearby areas are all cleared. This is due to lack of this firewood, charcoal, building materials, and clearance of place for cultivation. Those who are requesting for farming, they go to clear the forest, of course, so as for them to farm. So these are the challenges we get. Yeah, we have partnership with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, even the Ministry of Agriculture. Because where there is forestry, there is wildlife. Where there is wildlife, there is forestry. So we have partnership with them. But because of the insecurity I told you earlier, it's not easy to connect them. We are armed in wildlife, but part of forestry is not armed. So it's not easy for one side only to control it, but otherwise we have partnership with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in controlling this.
There is a lot of things that needs to be done to improve the wildlife conservation in the country. Not only the country, but even at the state level. South Sudan have got different animal species which can be conserved for the future, but the ongoing challenges of insecurity, bush clearing of habitats for wildlife animals seems to be the obstacle to recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. Jumala Sunday for Youth Media Initiative South Sudan.